So Stranger Things season 4 has been a total hit. The same can be said about Stranger Things in general, and it's pretty explainable. They literally utilize the most popular tropes and stylistic decisions that have been around and have been developing for centuries. Well, not sure about centuries, but at least for a couple of decades. So here are some of my expertise. Here are some of my thoughts on why Stranger Things became so popular, why people are so obsessed with them, myself included. Despite it being a pretty ordinary story, if you sum it up, like there is nothing that hasn't been done before, and why season 4 in particular is trending that much. Reason number 1, just kidding. Well, not exactly. Aliens is largely considered one of the best action horror films, and it stands as one of the best sci-fi films of all time. A lot of visuals on Stranger Things are taken from Aliens, and it scares the living shit out of you. I remember how when I was a child, my grams showed me Aliens, and I was like scarred for life basically. And the Duffer Brothers, they made this alien theme even more relatable, because in Aliens everything is happening like somewhere not on this planet, not on Earth, and here we have a small town, so it feels more down to earth and it feels like something that can actually happen to us. And also movies about extraterrestrial life have been popular since the dawn of time, so that's a good catch. The Amityville horror franchise, and I'm sorry in advance if I'm pronouncing this wrong because I'm not like an English speaking person. The Amityville horror franchise has almost as many films as the MCU. It's crazy to even think about it, and they're still being made and watched, which is even more crazy. And people are obsessed with something that drives other people insane, with the horror that we can't really explain. It's just there, and you have nothing that you can do. And the same with the house in season 4, although like visually it resembles the house from Psycho, the Bates house, and it kind of predicts what's gonna happen. It pins the suspicion onto the son, and this story alone, even if it hadn't been connected to the main story, which made it even more cool, would stand out because people are seemingly obsessed with haunted houses. Just Google how much money people make putting up these haunted houses for rent. I wouldn't live in one of this even if they paid me, because I'm scared shitless of everything supernatural. I just prefer watching it on screen, and even then I am like under a blanket. So utilizing this and casting the actor from Freddy Krueger was like one of the greatest decisions, because this made season 4 interesting even for people who haven't watched Stranger Things before. I literally saw someone saying on Twitter that they will start watching Stranger Things because this season is really like insane with so many things that people love. The X-Men are one of Marvel's most popular franchises. In the last 40 years, X-Men comics have been the best-selling books in the market and rule the roost today, beating just about every other comic on the market on a weekly basis. And again, it's quite a stretch, but here we have a scene when Vecna is searching for people who he will like possess, and it is pretty similar to Professor X using Cerebro, and just by the look of it you instantly remember X-Men. At least that would happen to me, and it like spills all this warm feelings around your heart. We know that a lot from Stranger Things is inspired by Stephen King, who is the king of horror, and I love his books. His stories are always like really original, they're interesting to follow, and it's no surprise that the Duffer Brothers used Stephen King as the main inspiration. His books, his descriptions, his overall vibe, because, and let me read it, he is considered one of the most popular contemporary fiction writer with 62% on the popularity chart, and people, even people who have never read Stephen King stories, they know what they're about, they know the vibe, the atmosphere, and because so many people really love that, you can't go wrong using like one of his techniques. And not that I forgot J.K. Rowling, who is also one of the most popular, most high-selling contemporary writers, and she's the world's highest paid authors of today, and not even from books, but from amusement parks, from theater productions, from, I don't know, she basically gets money from a lot of things Harry Potter related. And in my opinion, 11 and number one's dynamic resembles the one of Harry Potter and Voldemort. They are two very powerful people who have virtually the same powers, kind of in the same range. They both have evil inside of them, and one always tries to bring evil in the other. And if we remember, like, the scene from the last episode of Stranger Things, the last episode that has come out, and number one is trying to kind of lure 11 onto his side and become evil with him, and kind of Voldemort, his goal was to kill Harry, but at the same time it would be pretty cool, like he would agree if Harry agreed to become one of the Death Eaters. Voldemort as he is today, this is again quite a stretch, but it's my opinion. So I think that Voldemort as he was in the beginning of the movies, he became like this thanks to Harry Potter. And number one was actually, like, not number one, but Vecna was actually born thanks to 11, with her opening the hole to the Upside Down and with him becoming, well, the King of the Upside Down. Both of the characters in this couple, they live kind of in separate worlds. Again, even color correction wise, in Stranger Things it's pretty obvious, but if you look closely in Harry Potter, they also like are colored differently, not always, but sometimes, at least in the beginning. There are actually much more similarities between these odd couples. And again, it was a super cool move to use one of the most popular book franchises, movie franchises, to create this dynamic between the protagonist and antagonist. So the Duffer Brothers definitely know their stuff. You can love or hate the MCU and what it's doing right now, with all the characters and with the cinematic universe in general, but you can't deny that this is, again, as Harry Potter, one of the most popular franchises in the whole world. Their movies make a pretty good buck. So Avengers Endgame was the highest grossing movie of the MCU to date, and saw its huge cast facing off against Thanos for the final time. The main structure point of Endgame was that all these characters who were left, they were grouped and they went on their separate adventures. And of course, this movie was so popular thanks to it being a conclusion to a decade-long Infinity Saga, and because the previous one, Infinity War, ended, well, it was a shock to many. But look at what we have here in season 4. All the characters, they are grouped and they go on their own quests. And this decision helps to highlight different bromances. I think you know what I'm talking about. Show rekindled romances, and overall it helps with the structure, so it looks familiar and more consistent. It's pretty easy to follow, like, all these different aspects, which in the 2 episodes that will follow will come together. And Stranger Things actually utilized this in the previous season, but this season it became more apparent, and it totally works in my opinion, because everyone can find something for themselves, someone for themselves, because all of these pairings, they totally work. And to conclude, we have some allusions to the Silence of the Lamb, with Victor Krill being an assistant to main characters, the same way Hannibal was an assistant to Clarice. And according to Wikipedia, The Silence of the Lambs is regularly cited by critics, film directors, and audience as one of the greatest and most influential films. And it is the only horror film to date that won Best Picture. They definitely take from the best. Let me know in the comments what are some allusions that you noticed. Maybe you don't agree with something and I'm losing my voice. Anyway, have a nice day and never stop watching great movies and TV shows.